All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down a book that has sold, millions of copies and has totally changed the game for how people think about getting better and making progress. We're talking about Atomic Habits by James Clear.
So let's just get right into it. Have you ever wondered why it is so hard to stick with new habits? You start a new routine, you're super motivated, you're going to hit the gym, learn Spanish, wake up at 5 a.m. But, a few weeks later, you're right back where you started. What's up with that?
Well, here's the first big and honestly really reassuring idea from the book. If you've ever struggled with habits, it's not you. You're not the problem. The problem is your system. The whole point is we need to stop blaming our own willpower and start looking at the way we're actually approaching things.
Okay, so what is the system he's talking about? Let's spend the next few minutes unpacking the framework that has helped so many people, a system that promises to make building good habits and ditching the bad ones way, way easier than you'd think. Right, so first things first. The big idea here isn't about making some massive, life-altering change overnight. Nope, it's actually the total opposite. It's all about this tiny number, 1%. Just getting 1% better every single day. Now that sounds kind of trivial, right? Like what's 1%? But this is where the real magic happens, the magic of compounding. And when you look at the math, it's actually staggering. If you get 1% better each day for a year, you don't just end up 365% better. Because of compounding, you end up almost 38 times better. Now, if you think this is just some nice theory, you have to hear the story of the British cycling team. So this team, for about 100 years, was pretty mediocre. That's putting it nicely. Then they hired a coach who brought in this idea he called the aggregation of marginal gains. They looked for 1% improvements everywhere. I'm talking about slightly more comfortable bike seats, massage gels that helped muscles recover 1% faster. They even tested which pillows gave the riders 1% better sleep. On their own, these changes seem almost pointless, but altogether, they compounded into multiple Tour de France victories and a whole bunch of Olympic gold medals. Okay, so that's an amazing story. But how do we actually apply this stuff to our own lives? How do we find our own 1% gains? Well, the book gives us a super simple, really practical roadmap. And that brings us to what's really the practical heart of the entire book, the 4 laws of behavior change. Let's break them down, one by one. Law number 1, make it obvious. This one is all about the cue. See, your environment is one of the biggest things influencing your behavior, whether you realize it or not. So if you want to read more, don't just leave your book on a shelf somewhere. Put it right on your pillow. You want to make the cues for your good habits basically impossible to ignore. Next up, law number 2, make it attractive. This is all about the craving. You can actually make a new habit feel more appealing by pairing it with something you already love to do. It's a strategy called temptation bundling, and it's brilliant. You're basically hijacking your brain's own reward system to work in your favor.
All right, law number 3 is make it easy. This one deals with the response, the actual doing of the habit. The simple truth is, the easier something is to do, the more likely we are to do it. The 2-minute rule from the book is perfect for this. Instead of read before bed, your new habit is read 1 page. Do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. The whole point is to make it so laughably easy that you can't possibly say no.
And that brings us to the final law. Make it satisfying. This is all about the reward. Our brains are wired to repeat things that feel good. The problem is, the rewards for good habits, like getting in shape, are often way off in the future. So you have to find a way to give yourself an immediate win. The book gives us a great example of moving a paperclip from one jar to another after you make a sales call. It's this tiny little signal of progress that your brain just loves. But here's the thing, these 4 laws aren't just about changing what you do. They're building towards something much, much deeper, changing who you are. And this, for me, is where the book goes from being a simple how-to guide to a real philosophy for living. Most of us, when we want to change, we set outcome-based goals. We say things like, I want to run a marathon. But the book argues there's a much more powerful way to think about it, identity-based habits. The focus totally shifts from what you want to get to the kind of person you want to become. And this is the crucial point right here. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. So every time you sit down and write 1 sentence, you're casting a vote for, I am a writer. Every time you hit the gym, even for 10 minutes, you're casting a vote for, I am an athlete. You are literally, piece by piece, building your identity with these tiny habits.
Okay, this all sounds awesome for building good habits. But what about the bad ones? The ones we really, really want to get rid of? Well, the great news is this whole system works perfectly in reverse too. To break a bad habit, you're just flipped the four laws on their head. So instead of making it obvious, you make it invisible. Want to eat less junk food? Get it out of the house. Instead of making it attractive, you make it unattractive. Really think about the negative side effects. Instead of making it easy, you make it difficult. Unplug the TV after you use it and put the remote in another room. See? You're just systematically adding friction to make the bad habit harder to do. Now, of course, no book is perfect. No single approach works for every single person. So let's take a quick, honest look at what people love about Atomic Habits and some of the common critiques too. Okay, so on the one hand, the praise is pretty much universal. People absolutely love that it's so practical and that it's all based on real science. The main criticisms? Well, some people feel the main ideas get repeated a bit, and others point out that this simple framework might not be enough to tackle really deep-seated issues, like a serious addiction. But ultimately, the book's real power comes back to this one profound message you see on the screen. Goals are fine, they're great for setting a direction, but it's your systems that actually determine whether you make progress. So the idea is to stop obsessing about the goal and focus on building a better system. If you do that, the results, they'll eventually take care of themselves. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that you don't need to be perfect tomorrow. It's just about being 1% better. It's about casting one tiny vote for the person you want to become. And that really leaves just one question for you to think about. What's your vote going to be?